Hey, it's Tim without Guy today on commercial break. When in fact, you'd think of all the days Guy would show up, it would be the it would be the Monday after his Yankees. Actually, Guy, you you absolutely destroyed me over the weekend. You wiped the Mets all over the field. You flexed your muscle, the long ball, all your guys, even your guys that probably won't make it to opening day, like Gary Sanchez and Giancarlo Stanton, because they're going to be injured again. Found a way to flex a little bit of this at a time when the sports world just gets crazier and crazier. And so before going into markets, it's a case where we have Governor of New Jersey Murphy's out there saying MetLife Stadium is going to be treated like the rest of the state, which means that there's not really going to be any public gatherings. And for all we know, there's not ever going to be a fan at MetLife. And yet other parts of the country, they haven't said that. So how does the NFL deal with some stadiums that have categorically said no fans versus others? Is the NFL in question? And meanwhile, the NHL is like ready to bomb away. And it looks like, they're going to open up. So I don't know. It's interesting because what sports are digesting here is almost exactly what the markets are digesting. So it's Monday, huge start to the week. And not surprisingly, on a day when you got maybe some decent vaccine headlines out of AstraZeneca, and reinforcing that there are other folks also in phase 2 and beyond, and to what extent we get a vaccine. Those stocks that have been most sensitive to vaccines actually did not so much, or in fact actually sold off, as if there's now a sense that vaccine or not, who's taking the vaccine? When are we going back to a case where restaurants and airlines and airports and cruise lines and sports stadiums are ever going to be full again? Some of the media consumer experiences, obviously, as it relates to anything related to performing arts, et cetera. So it and the other side of that trade is markets go to all-time highs effectively, right? NASDAQ's basically at those highs. Semiconductors really are at those highs. And then the mega cap tech names led by Amazon up 8%, catch a bid like really they haven't had in at any point, I'd say, at least on a one-day basis. This is the most extreme move we've seen in those stocks that look to be the most exhausted. And, they may be exhausted tomorrow. But I do think that this is what we're going through. Markets are digesting what it really means, and to what extent both Fed's liquidity continues to keep some of those same trades alive, while even if there was good news on the vaccine, we're just not sure how consumer tastes are changing. So let's now dive a little bit into a stock-specific name, IBM. Yeah, IBM, one of the great iconic tech companies of all time that's been left for dead for the last 5 years, reported numbers after the bell. And on a day when Amazon was up 8%, IBM gave numbers that essentially beat in terms of their EPS. They showed that their hybrid cloud business is growing. And actually, if you strip it out to an adjusted number, it grew about 34%. And these are great numbers. So IBM set out to get into essentially enhance their software business, but really be in the hybrid cloud and compete with Microsoft and Amazon and Google. Are they doing it? Well, look, on a relative basis, here's my kind of stock call for the day. I really like what IBM did. I realize we've had a couple fits and starts, but IBM, if you'll remember their numbers back and the announcements back in February that took the stock up to 155-ish, and it looked like we were breaking out right before COVID hit. If you look at where the stock is and you look at these numbers, and I know people are going to tell you they haven't grown their revenues for at least 8 quarters, and this is another, essentially, if you adjust these revenue numbers for some spinoffs and sales, they're still down 1.9% on revenues. But these numbers were solid. And so I look at the go valuation liquidity drive that's going into those top tech names. IBM doesn't need a whole lot of relative value rotation to see it break out through these 155 levels. So you're never buying a tech company for a dividend, but with a 5.5% dividend yield and a valuation that's around 12 times, 12.5 times, I think IBM's not a bad place to park some money here for what still is a turnaround, but for a turnaround in some of the sexiest parts of tech that are some of the biggest beneficiaries of the stay-at-home trade and the enterprise trade and the cloud trade. That's all the reason why, I don't know. I was watching baseball this weekend, and yeah, my teams weren't winning, and I was getting destroyed. My aces not shelved for the year, but Jake DeGrom's day to day, watching baseball wasn't that thrilling. And it's kind of how a day like this feels in the market. So, Guy, no grimace for you today. Hope you're enjoying yourself at the beach. Congrats on your Yankee team. I hope those guys are starting on opening day and not on the DL. Gotcha. See you tomorrow.